Stop scrolling. This is not for everyone, and this is not random. If you are hearing this right now, it is because something has shifted in your life at this exact moment. Not later, not tomorrow, now. There is a reason your attention was pulled here, a reason your spirit feels this urgency, this pull you can't quite explain. This message is reaching you because you are meant to hear it, because something significant has just changed in the unseen, and it concerns you directly. For a long time, you may have felt overlooked, like you were standing still while everyone else moved ahead, watching blessings, opportunities, and favor pass you by. You questioned the timing, wondered if you were forgotten, if your moment would ever come. But what you didn't realize is that your name was never lost. It was being held for the right time. And now, that time has come. Heaven has just removed your name from the waiting list.
The season of delay is breaking, and what once felt distant is now moving toward you with intention. There is something you need to understand at a deeper level, something that will completely shift the way you interpret your past. You were never forgotten. It may have felt that way, yes. There were moments when silence surrounded you, when prayers seemed unanswered, when doors stayed closed longer than you expected, and it looked like life was moving for everyone else except you. But feeling forgotten and actually being forgotten are not the same thing. What you experienced was not abandonment, it was refinement. There is a process that happens in hidden places, a kind of transformation that cannot occur in the spotlight. While you were questioning your timing, something far more important was being worked on within you. You were not being overlooked, you were being prepared in a way that required privacy, pressure, and precision. Because what is built in silence carries a strength that public growth can never replicate. The truth is, delay does not mean denial. Delay means development. And development always takes time because it focuses not on what you want, but on who you must become to sustain it. If everything had come to you when you first desired it, you might have celebrated the arrival, but you would not have been able to maintain it. There are blessings that require capacity, and capacity is not given instantly. It is formed, layer by layer, through experience, through challenges, through moments that stretch you beyond what feels comfortable. What you called waiting was actually construction. Every day you felt like nothing was happening. Something was happening within you. Your patience was expanding. Your awareness was sharpening. Your emotional strength was being fortified.
Even the disappointments played a role, because they stripped away illusions and forced you to see clearly, to discern more wisely, to choose differently. That is not neglect. That is intentional development. You were being built into someone who could carry weight without breaking, someone who could walk into rooms without shrinking, someone who could handle responsibility without losing alignment. And building something strong always takes longer than producing something temporary. Think about it. Anything created quickly can collapse just as quickly. But what is carefully formed, what is reinforced over time, what is tested under pressure, becomes unshakable. That is what was happening in your life. You were not stuck. You were stabilizing. You were not delayed. You were being detailed. Every part of you was being examined, adjusted, strengthened.
Even the areas you tried to avoid were being addressed, because the version of you stepping into your next season cannot carry the same weaknesses that existed before. This is why certain situations repeated themselves, why certain lessons seemed to come back again and again. It was not punishment. It was completion. Nothing could move forward until it was fully formed within you. And now, when you look back, you may begin to recognize it. The way you respond now is different. The way you think is different. The things that once triggered you no longer have the same power.
The distractions that once pulled you away no longer feel as appealing. That is evidence of development. That is proof that something real has taken place inside of you. You are not the same person you were before, and that change did not happen by accident. It happened because you were being built with intention.
There is also a level of trust that had to be established within you. A trust not based on outcomes, but on understanding. You had to learn how to remain grounded, even when nothing around you made sense. How to stay committed, even when results were not immediate. How to continue showing up without external validation. That kind of endurance is not common, and it cannot be taught overnight. It is developed through time, through uncertainty, through moments where you have to choose faith over feelings again and again. And you did that. Even when you were tired, even when you questioned everything, you did not completely walk away. That matters more than you realize, because consistency in difficult seasons is what qualifies you for greater responsibility in the next. If you had been given more while you were still unstable, it would have overwhelmed you. If doors had opened while your mindset was still rooted in doubt, you might have sabotaged the very thing you prayed for. So the delay was not a rejection. It was protection. Protection from premature exposure. Protection from opportunities that required a stronger version of you. Protection from stepping into something you were not yet equipped to sustain. And now, the perspective shifts. Instead of asking, why did it take so long? You begin to see, it took exactly as long as it needed to. Because the goal was never just to give you something. The goal was to transform you into someone. Someone who can carry influence without losing humility. Someone who can receive without becoming dependent. Someone who can grow without forgetting the process that shaped them. That is why you had to go through what you went through. Not to break you, but to build you. Not to hold you back, but to prepare you for forward movement that will last. You were being constructed from the inside out, and that kind of work cannot be rushed. It requires patience, precision, and pressure. But now, you stand in a different place. Not because everything around you has changed yet, but because you have changed. And that internal shift is what unlocks everything external. You are no longer the person who was waiting in confusion. You are the person who has been developed with clarity. You are no longer questioning your worth. You have been refined into someone who understands your value without needing constant confirmation. You are no longer fragile. You have been strengthened in ways that cannot be easily shaken. This is the identity shift. You are not forgotten. You are being formed. You are being built into someone who can handle what is coming next. And now, as things begin to move, as opportunities begin to appear, as doors begin to open, you will not step into them as the same person who once felt left behind. You will step into them as someone prepared, someone developed, someone ready. And that changes everything. There is a truth that may be difficult to accept at first, but once you understand it, everything in your past begins to make sense. Every pain you experienced had a purpose. Not one moment of struggle was random. Not one tear was meaningless. Not one delay was empty. What felt like chaos was actually structure. What felt like loss was actually instruction. You were not just going through things. You were being taken through a process that was shaping you with intention. And the deeper you look, the more you begin to see that every type of pain carried a specific assignment in your life. Nothing overlapped without reason, nothing repeated without purpose, and nothing stayed longer than it needed to complete its work within you. Take a moment and think about the doors that closed in your life. The opportunities that seemed so close yet suddenly disappeared. The paths you thought were yours that never fully opened. At the time, it felt like rejection. It felt like you were being blocked. like something was being taken away from you. But those closed doors were not there to stop you. They were there to train you. They were teaching you how to detach from what looks good but is not aligned. They were teaching you how to handle disappointment without losing direction. They were teaching you how to trust a process that does not always explain itself in the moment. Because if every door had opened, you would never have learned how to discern which ones truly belonged to you. You would have walked into spaces that could not sustain you, connected with environments that would have drained you, and accepted opportunities that looked right on the surface but carried long-term consequences underneath. So those closed doors were not losses. They were protection wrapped in confusion. They trained your spirit to recognize that not every opportunity is an assignment, and not every open path is meant for your journey. Then there were the moments of deep disappointment. The times when expectations fell apart, when things did not turn out the way you planned, when you invested time, energy, and hope into something that did not give back what you thought it would. Disappointment has a way of weakening people if they do not understand its purpose. It can make you feel drained, unmotivated, even doubtful of yourself. But in your life, disappointment was not there to weaken you. It was there to strengthen you. It forced you to develop resilience. It pushed you to keep going even when you felt like stopping. It trained your mind to adapt when reality did not match your expectations. Strength is not built in moments of ease. Strength is built when you have every reason to give up, but choose to continue anyway. Every time you stood back up after something fell apart, you were reinforcing a level of inner stability that cannot be taught, only earned. You were learning how to hold yourself together without external reassurance, how to keep your focus without immediate results, how to move forward even when the outcome was uncertain. That is strength. And now, you carry it in a way that is quiet but powerful. It shows in how you respond, how you think, how you endure. And then there is betrayal, the kind of pain that cuts deeper than most, because it comes from people you trusted, people you allowed into your space, people you believed would stand with you, but instead turned against you, or walked away when you needed them most. Betrayal has a way of shaking your sense of safety, your ability to trust, your understanding of loyalty. It can make you question your judgment, your openness, even your worth. But even that pain had a purpose. Betrayal was not there to harden your heart. It was there to sharpen your discernment. It taught you how to see beyond words and recognize patterns. It taught you how to pay attention to energy, consistency, and intention instead of just promises. It taught you how to protect your peace without isolating yourself completely. Discernment is not about becoming distant or guarded to the point of disconnection. It is about becoming aware. It is about knowing who can be trusted with your time, your energy, your vulnerability. And that kind of awareness often comes through painful experiences, because pain forces you to observe more closely, to reflect more deeply, to understand more clearly. You may not have wanted those lessons, but now you carry a level of wisdom that protects you moving forward. You are no longer easily misled. You are no longer quick to ignore red flags. You have learned how to pause, to evaluate, to choose wisely. And that is not weakness. That is growth, earned through experience. When you begin to connect all of these pieces together, a powerful realization emerges. Nothing in your life was wasted. Not the time you thought you lost, not the effort that seemed unrecognized, not the seasons that felt unproductive. Every part of your journey contributed to who you are now. Even the moments that felt like setbacks were actually setting something in place within you. You were gaining awareness, building endurance, strengthening your mindset, refining your character. These are not visible results, but they are foundational ones. And without a strong foundation, nothing that is built on top
can last. So while it may have looked like you were falling behind, you were actually being prepared at a deeper level than what is visible on the surface. This is why your story carries weight. This is why your presence has depth. Because you are not speaking from theory, you are living from experience. You know what it feels like to be tested. You know what it feels like to be stretched beyond comfort. You know what it feels like to continue when it would have been easier to stop.
And that kind of understanding cannot be faked. It is real, it is grounded, and it becomes a source of strength, not only for you, but for others who will encounter you in your next season. There is also something important about emotional validation in this process. You are allowed to acknowledge that it was hard. You are allowed to recognize that some moments hurt deeply, that some experiences left marks that took time to heal. Growth does not require you to deny your pain. It requires you to understand it. You can honor what you felt without being defined by it. You can recognize the difficulty without staying attached to the weight of it. Because the purpose was never to keep you in pain. It was to move you through it into something stronger. And now, as you stand in this moment, you are not the same person who first experienced those struggles. You have perspective now. You have awareness now. You have strength now. The same situations that once confused you now make sense. The same patterns that once trapped you now stand out clearly. The same emotions that once overwhelmed you are now something you can navigate with control. That is growth. That is transformation. That is the result of a process where every pain had a purpose. And as you move forward, you will begin to see the evidence of it even more clearly. You will notice how naturally you avoid what is not aligned. You will notice how quickly you recover from setbacks. You will notice how easily you recognize what is genuine and what is not. These are not coincidences. These are results. Results of everything you went through, everything you endured, everything you learned. Nothing was wasted. Every moment contributed to the person you are becoming. And that person is now ready for what is next. There is a question that has echoed in your mind more times than you can count. A quiet frustration that surfaced in moments of waiting, in moments of comparison, in moments when life seemed to move for everyone else but you. Why did it take so long? Why did something that felt so aligned, so deeply desired, require such an extended season of delay? And the answer is not simple, but it is precise. Because what was being prepared for you could not be rushed. And, more importantly, the version of you who would receive it did not yet exist. Heaven does not rush influence. Anything that carries weight, anything that affects not just you, but others connected to your path, must be built with intention. Quick elevation without internal preparation leads to instability, and instability cannot sustain purpose. So what felt like time being lost was actually time being invested, carefully, deliberately, into your development. You were not ready before, not in the way that truly matters. You may have had the desire, the vision, even the potential. But potential without preparation is fragile. It looks promising, but it collapses under pressure. And what is meant for you carries pressure, responsibility, and expectation that your past self would not have been able to hold without breaking or compromising. That is why the process focused on transforming you first. Because the blessing is not just about arrival, it is about sustainability. It is about being able to remain, to grow, to handle what comes with it without losing yourself in the process. You needed a new version of yourself, one that could think differently, respond differently, and carry things differently. And that kind of transformation does not happen overnight. It happens through repetition, through experience, through moments that stretch your capacity until it expands beyond what it used to be. Think about how you used to react to pressure compared to how you respond now. Think about how your mindset has shifted, how your priorities have changed, how your tolerance for certain things has decreased while your standards have increased. That is not accidental. That is the result of time doing its work within you. The delay was not empty, it was active. Every moment was contributing to the construction of this new version of you. And without that version, what is coming next would have felt overwhelming instead of aligned. There is also a layer of protection in timing that is often misunderstood. When something is delayed, it is not always because you are not ready. It is sometimes because everything around you is not ready. There are people who needed to move, situations that needed to unfold, circumstances that needed to align in ways you could not see. If things had happened earlier, they would have connected you to the wrong environments, the wrong partnerships, the wrong conditions. And even if it looked right in the moment, it would not have lasted. Timing protects what is meant for you by ensuring that when it arrives, it is supported by the right structure. It is not just about giving you something. It is about placing you in a position where that something can grow, expand, and remain stable. So while you were focusing on the delay, there was a larger alignment taking place beyond your view. Pieces were being arranged, paths were being cleared, connections were being positioned. And that kind of orchestration cannot be rushed, because if even one element is out of place, it affects everything connected to it. This is why understanding replaces frustration when you see the full picture. Frustration comes from focusing only on what you did not have, only on what did not happen when you expected it to. But understanding comes when you realize that what did not happen was just as important as what eventually will. You begin to see that if certain doors had opened earlier, they would have led you into instability. If certain opportunities had arrived sooner, they would have exposed areas in you that were not yet ready to be tested. If certain people had entered your life before you developed discernment, they might have influenced you in ways that would have taken you off course. So the delay was not an obstacle. It was alignment. It was everything being positioned correctly so that when your moment arrived, it would not collapse under pressure. There is also something powerful about the internal readiness that comes with time. When you are not ready, you tend to approach things with urgency, with a sense of needing to prove something, with a mindset rooted in lack. But when you are ready, your posture changes. You move with confidence instead of desperation. You recognize opportunities without chasing them. You understand your value without needing constant validation. That shift cannot be forced. It must be developed. And that is what time gave you. It gave you space to grow into yourself, to understand who you are beyond external outcomes, to build a foundation that is not easily shaken. So now, when things begin to move, you will not approach them with fear of losing them. You will approach them with the stability of someone who knows they can handle what they receive. That is the difference. That is why it took so long, because this was never just about getting to a destination. It was about becoming the kind of person who can exist at that level without losing alignment. And now, as you reflect on your journey, something shifts within you. The frustration begins to fade, replaced by a sense of clarity. You start to see that nothing was late. Everything arrived exactly when it needed to. You are not behind. You are being prepared in a way that required time. And now, you are stepping into a season where that preparation begins to reveal its purpose. The patience you developed will allow you to navigate challenges without panic. The discernment you gained will help you make decisions with clarity. The strength you built will support you when responsibility increases. All of these things are the result of the time you once questioned, and now they become the reason you are ready. So instead of asking why it took so long, you begin to recognize that it took exactly as long as it needed to. Because now, You are not stepping into your next season as someone unprepared, uncertain, or unstable. You are stepping into it as someone developed, aligned, and ready to sustain what is coming. And that changes everything. There is a moment in every journey that cannot be seen with the eyes, but can be felt deeply within. A moment where everything shifts, without noise, without announcement, without visible confirmation. And that moment has just happened for you. Your status has changed. Not gradually, not partially, but decisively. What once defined you no longer holds authority over you. You are no longer in a season of waiting. You have moved into a state of readiness. And this is not something you need to chase or prove. It is something that has already been established. The shift from waiting to ready is not about external circumstances changing overnight. It is about an internal alignment reaching completion. For so long, your posture was shaped by anticipation, by hoping, by enduring. You were positioned in expectation, learning patience, developing endurance, holding on even when clarity was limited. But now, that posture is no longer required. You have crossed into a new phase where expectation transforms into embodiment. You are no longer preparing to become, you have become. And that changes how everything begins to respond to you. When you are waiting, you look outward for signs. When you are ready, you become the sign. There is a quiet authority that comes with readiness, a presence that does not need to announce itself, yet cannot be ignored. This is the turning point. This is where preparation gives way to activation. Everything you learned, everything you built internally, everything you refined in silence now begins to move into expression. Activation is not chaotic, it is precise. It does not feel forced, it feels natural. You will notice that things begin to align in ways that do not require struggle. Conversations will carry more weight, opportunities will feel more connected, decisions will become clearer, not because life suddenly became easier, but because you are now operating from a different level of awareness. Preparation was about building the foundation. Activation is about stepping onto it and allowing it to support you. And the truth is, many people never reach this point because they leave too early. They disconnect before the process completes. They walk away when the pressure becomes uncomfortable. But you stayed. You endured. You allowed the process to finish its work within you, and now you are stepping into a phase where what was internal begins to manifest externally. You have moved from almost to authorized. Almost is a place of proximity without access. It is where you can see what is possible, where you can feel how close you are, but something still holds you back from fully stepping in. Authorization changes that completely. Authorization means you are no longer observing, you are entering. It means the barriers that once existed are no longer relevant because the requirement has been fulfilled. You now carry what is needed to step into spaces that were previously closed to you. This is what spiritual promotion looks like. It is not always loud. It is not always immediate in appearance, but it is powerful in its impact. Promotion in the physical world often comes with titles, recognition, and visible changes. But spiritual promotion begins internally. It is a shift in capacity, in awareness, in alignment. It is when your mindset, your character, and your readiness reach a level where new responsibilities can be entrusted to you. And once that shift happens, everything else begins to follow. You may not see it all at once, but you will feel it. You will feel a difference in how you carry yourself, in how you respond, in how you perceive situations. There will be a sense of calm where there used to be urgency, a sense of clarity where there used to be confusion. That is not coincidence. That is confirmation. It is the evidence that something has already been approved in the unseen. and now it is beginning to take form in the visible. What is important in this moment is that you recognize the shift and align yourself with it. Because a change in status requires a change in agreement. If you continue to think like someone who is still waiting, you will delay the manifestation of what has already been released. If you continue to speak like someone who is uncertain, you will create resistance against what is already aligned for you. This is why awareness matters. You must begin to see yourself as someone who is ready, someone who has been authorized, someone who is stepping into what has been prepared. This is not about arrogance. It is about alignment. It is about agreeing with the work that has already been completed within you. And as you begin to shift your perspective, your language, your expectations, you will notice that your reality begins to reflect that alignment. Doors will not just open, they will recognize you. Opportunities will not just appear, they will fit you. Connections will not just happen, they will align with where you are now. This is the difference between chasing and receiving. You are no longer in a position where you need to force things to happen. You are in a position where what is meant for you begins to respond to you naturally. That is what authorization does. It removes the need for struggle and replaces it with alignment. And here is something you should take a moment to acknowledge within yourself. You earned this shift. Not through perfection, not through having everything figured out, but through consistency, through endurance, through staying committed when it would have been easier to walk away. This is the result of everything you have been through, everything you have learned, everything you have become. You did not skip the process, and because of that, you can now sustain what comes next. So as you stand in this moment, recognize it, feel it, accept it. Let it settle within you that you are no longer who you used to be. You are no longer in the same position. Your status has changed. And as you continue forward, carry yourself accordingly. Think differently. Speak differently. Expect differently. Because this is not the beginning of preparation anymore. This is the beginning of activation. And if something in you resonates with this, if you can feel that shift, even if you cannot fully explain it yet, then acknowledge it. Let it be real to you. Because the moment you agree with it is the moment you begin to fully step into it. There is a reason you are standing at this point right now, a reason the shift has taken place, a reason your status has changed, and it is because you passed the tests. Not one test, not one moment, but a series of unseen evaluations that shaped who you are when no one was watching. This is what most people misunderstand about elevation. It is not random, it is not accidental, and it is not given lightly. It is earned through alignment, through consistency, through decisions made in private that eventually qualify you for what can be trusted in public. And you, whether you realized it or not at the time, were being tested in ways that went far beyond what was visible. The first test was consistency, and this is where many people fall away. Consistency is not glamorous. It does not come with applause. It does not bring immediate results that validate your effort. It is the quiet discipline of showing up again and again, even when nothing seems to be changing. It is choosing to continue when motivation fades, when recognition is absent, when the outcome is uncertain. You kept showing up when nobody clapped for you. You kept moving forward when there was no guarantee that it would pay off. You maintained your path when it would have been easier to stop and accept less. That matters more than you think. Because consistency builds trust, not just in others, but within yourself. It proves that you are reliable, that you can be counted on, that you do not abandon your process when it becomes inconvenient. And that kind of reliability is required for anything that carries weight. If you cannot remain steady in small, unseen moments, you cannot be trusted with larger, visible responsibilities. So every day you chose to continue, Every time you showed up despite doubt or fatigue, you were passing a test that was preparing you for what is now being released into your life. The second test was character, and this one goes even deeper because it deals with who you are at your core. Character is revealed in moments where you have the option to take the easy path, but choose the right one instead. It is choosing honesty when deception would benefit you. It is choosing integrity when compromise would be more convenient. It is choosing to remain aligned with your values, even when no one would have known if you didn't. There were moments when you could have taken shortcuts, when you could have responded out of emotion, when you could have acted in ways that might have given you immediate advantage, but long-term consequences. But you didn't. You held yourself to a higher standard, even when it cost you something in the moment. That is character. And character is what determines how far you can go without losing yourself. Because elevation without character leads to destruction. It may look successful from the outside, but it cannot sustain itself because it is built on unstable ground. You are being shaped to carry success without compromising your identity. You are being trained to handle influence without losing your integrity. And that kind of internal strength is rare. It is not developed through ease. It is forged through choices that require discipline, awareness, and self-control. You passed that test. And because you did, you can now step into what is coming without fear of it changing who you are. The third test was endurance, and this may have been the most difficult one of all. Endurance is not just about continuing. It is about continuing when everything within you wants to stop. It is staying when leaving would feel justified. It is holding on when letting go would feel easier. There were seasons where the pressure intensified, where the weight felt heavy, where the progress was slow or invisible. There were moments when you questioned whether it was worth it, whether you should keep going, whether anything would actually change. And yet, you stayed. You did not break. You did not allow temporary emotions to dictate permanent decisions. You remained, even when the environment around you did not reflect what you hoped for. That is endurance. And endurance builds a level of resilience that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks. It creates a foundation that allows you to withstand pressure without collapsing. It strengthens your ability to remain grounded when circumstances fluctuate. And this is essential, because what you are stepping into will require that kind of stability. Without endurance, you might have reached a certain level, but you would not have been able to maintain it. You would have been vulnerable to every challenge, every obstacle, every unexpected shift. But now, because you have endured, you carry a strength that will support you through what comes next. There is a principle that reinforces everything you have experienced, a truth that has been proven through your journey. At the proper time, you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. That is not just a statement, it is a pattern. It is a law of growth and reward. Effort, when sustained over time, produces results. Commitment, when maintained through difficulty, leads to breakthrough. You did not give up. Even when you were tired, even when you doubted, even when you felt like nothing was changing, you continued. And because you continued, you have now reached the moment where the harvest becomes available. The reward is not delayed anymore. It is due. This does not mean everything will appear instantly or dramatically, but it means the shift has already taken place. The process has been completed. The tests have been passed. And now, the results of that process begin to unfold. What is important now is that you recognize this moment for what it is. This is not just another phase. This is a transition into manifestation. Everything you have built internally is now ready to support what will appear externally.
The consistency you developed will help you remain steady as opportunities increase. The character you strengthened will keep you grounded as influence expands. The endurance you built will allow you to navigate challenges without losing momentum.
These are not abstract qualities, they are assets. They are the reason you can now handle what is coming. And as you move forward, there should be a sense of confidence, not rooted in ego, but rooted in understanding. You know what it took to get here. You know what you went through. You know the decisions you made, the sacrifices you carried, the discipline you maintained. That awareness creates a quiet certainty within you. You do not need external validation to confirm your readiness because you have lived the process. You have experienced the transformation. And now, you are stepping into the result of it. So when things begin to shift, when doors begin to open, when opportunities begin to present themselves, do not question whether you deserve them. Do not shrink back into doubt or hesitation. Remember the tests you passed. Remember the consistency you maintained, the character you protected, the endurance you demonstrated. This is why you are here. This is why the timing has aligned. The reward is not random. It is the result of everything you have done to become who you are now. And as you receive it, do so with clarity, with confidence, and with the understanding that this is only the beginning of what your preparation has made possible. There is something important you must understand about the season you are stepping into, because if you misunderstand it, you might overlook it. This next season will not arrive with noise, chaos, or dramatic announcements. It will not look the way you once imagined it would. It will be quiet, but not empty. It will be subtle, but not insignificant. It will be strategic. And this is where many people miss their moment, because they have been conditioned to expect breakthrough to feel overwhelming, emotional, and obvious. The true alignment does not need to prove itself loudly. It reveals itself through precision, through ease, through a quiet unfolding that feels natural rather than forced. What is coming into your life now will not require you to fight for it in the way you had to fight through your previous seasons. It will not demand that you convince, chase, or exhaust yourself trying to make it happen. Instead, it will begin to meet you where you are, because you are now aligned with it. That is the difference. Before, you were reaching toward things that were not fully aligned yet, which created resistance, confusion, and delay. Now, what is meant for you is moving toward you at the same time you are moving toward it. And when alignment replaces effort, everything changes. You will begin to notice signs, not loud or overwhelming, but clear if you are paying attention. There will be unexpected calls, moments where opportunities appear without you forcing them, conversations that open doors you did not plan for. These moments will not feel chaotic. They will feel timely. They will arrive in a way that makes sense, even if you did not see them coming. That is how alignment works. It does not need to rush or pressure you. It flows. And when something flows, it carries a different kind of energy. It does not drain you. It supports you. It does not confuse you. It clarifies things. You will also notice that opportunities begin to feel more natural. You will not have to stretch yourself into something that does not fit. You will not feel like you're trying to become someone else just to qualify. Instead, you will recognize that who you have become is already enough to step into what is being presented. That sense of natural alignment is a sign that you are no longer forcing your way into spaces. You are entering spaces that were designed to receive you. There is a level of comfort in this, but not the kind that leads to complacency. It is the kind of comfort that comes from clarity, from knowing that you are in the right place at the right time, doing what you are meant to do. And that clarity allows you to move with confidence, without overthinking every step, without questioning every opportunity. Another sign of this quiet season is that doors will begin to open effortlessly. This does not mean there will be no challenges, but it means the resistance that once blocked your progress will no longer be the defining factor. You will not have to push against constant opposition just to move forward. Instead, you'll find that when something is truly aligned, it opens in a way that feels almost surprising. Things will come together more easily. People will respond more openly. Situations will shift without you having to control every detail. This is not luck. It is alignment. It is what happens when your internal readiness meets external opportunity at the right time. And here is the key understanding that will guide you through this season. You will not chase what is assigned to you. Let that settle within you. You will not chase it. Because what is assigned to you recognizes you as much as you recognize it. There is a mutual alignment that removes the need for struggle. In previous seasons, you may have felt like you had to pursue everything aggressively, like you had to prove your worth, like you had to convince people or situations to accept you. But that is not how this season operates. In this season, what belongs to you will respond to you. It will meet you. It will open to you. This does not mean you become passive or inactive. It means your actions are guided by alignment rather than desperation. You move with intention, not urgency. You respond rather than chase. And that shift in approach preserves your energy, your clarity, and your focus. It allows you to invest yourself in what truly matters instead of scattering your efforts across things that are not meant for you. There is also a level of discernment required in a quiet season, because when things are not loud, you must be attentive. You must listen more closely, observe more carefully, and trust the internal signals that guide you. This is where your development becomes essential. The discernment you gained, the awareness you built, the clarity you developed, all of it now plays a role in helping you recognize what is aligned and what is not. Not everything that appears will be for you, but what is for you will carry a certain clarity, a certain peace, a certain sense of rightness that you cannot ignore. And as you follow that, step by step, you will see how everything begins to connect. This season is not about sudden, overwhelming change. It is about consistent, strategic movement. It is about building something that lasts, something that is supported by alignment rather than driven by pressure. And because it is quiet, it is also protected. Not everything needs to be announced. Not everything needs to be shared. There is power in moving with intention, without seeking constant validation or attention. There is strength in allowing things to develop fully before exposing them to the outside world. This is how you maintain stability, how you protect what is being built, how you ensure that what begins will continue. As you move through this season, you may even find that your desire for noise, for validation, for external confirmation begins to fade. You become more focused, more grounded, more connected to what truly matters. You do not need everything to be seen. You need it to be real. And reality is built in quiet moments, in consistent actions, in aligned decisions that accumulate over time. This is the kind of season that changes your life, not because it is loud, but because it is lasting. So do not underestimate it. Do not overlook it because it does not match your previous expectations. Recognize it for what it is, a strategic alignment of everything you have been prepared for. And as it unfolds, trust it. Move with it. Stay attentive to the signs, the opportunities, the doors that open without force, because this is what happens when preparation meets timing. This is what happens when you are no longer trying to create something prematurely, but are instead stepping into something that has already been prepared. And in this space, you will understand something deeply. What is truly meant for you does not require you to chase it. It requires you to be ready for it. And now, you are.
There is a reason you have been feeling different lately, and it is not something random or emotional without meaning. It is not just a phase, and it is not something you should ignore. What you are experiencing internally is the evidence of a shift that has already taken place, even if everything around you is not fully caught up yet. The changes you feel are signals, indicators that something within you has been recalibrated.
Where there was once anxiety, there is now a quiet sense of peace that you cannot fully explain. It is not that all your questions have been answered, or that every situation has been resolved, but there is a calmness that sits beneath the surface, steady and consistent. That peace did not appear by accident. It is the result of the weight of waiting being lifted from you. For so long, you carried a pressure that came from uncertainty, from not knowing when things would change, from feeling like you were holding on without clear direction. That kind of pressure affects how you think, how you respond, how you move. It creates tension in your decisions and urgency in your actions. But now, that pressure has been released. And when pressure leaves, it creates space. Space for clarity, space for calm, space for alignment. That is why your reactions have changed. Situations that once would have triggered you now feel manageable. Things that once caused overthinking now feel easier to process. You are not as easily shaken, not as quickly overwhelmed. That is not because life suddenly became simple. It is because you have changed internally. There is also a shift in your emotional landscape that may have felt confusing at first. You may have noticed moments where you feel more sensitive, more aware, more reflective. At times, emotions may surface without a clear reason, and you may have wondered why. But this is not instability. It is refinement. It is the process of your internal world being aligned with where you are going. Old emotional patterns are being released. Attachments that once defined you are loosening. You are becoming more connected to what is real and less attached to what is temporary. That can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable at times, because it requires you to let go of what you once used for comfort or identity. But this is necessary, because where you are going requires clarity, not confusion. It requires depth, not distraction. And so, these emotional shifts are not something to resist. They are something to understand. They are part of your transformation. Another layer of what you have experienced is the intensity of challenges that seemed to increase just before things began to feel calm. There may have been a period where everything felt heavier, where obstacles appeared more frequently, where situations became more difficult than usual. It may have felt like things were getting worse instead of better, like you were being pushed harder at the very moment you were hoping for relief. But this pattern is not uncommon. Before a breakthrough, there is often an increase in pressure. Before a shift becomes visible, there is often resistance that intensifies. This is because when something significant is about to change, everything that is not aligned with that change begins to react. It is a form of opposition that attempts to disrupt your focus, to weaken your confidence, to pull you back into old patterns before you fully step into what is new. But what matters is how you responded to that pressure. You did not break. Even when it felt overwhelming, even when it felt like too much, you did not collapse under it. You did not allow it to define your direction. You may have felt the weight, but you did not surrender to it. And that is what separates you. That is what confirms your readiness. Because resilience is not about avoiding difficulty. It is about standing through it without losing yourself. You proved that you can handle pressure without becoming unstable. You proved that you can face challenges without abandoning your path. And that proof changes everything. It elevates your capacity. It strengthens your foundation. It increases your ability to carry what comes next. There is also a deeper awareness that has been developing within you. You may have noticed that you are more selective with your energy, more intentional with your time, more aware of what you allow into your space. Things that once felt acceptable no longer feel aligned. Conversations that once held your attention now feel draining. Environments that once felt normal now feel out of place. This is not you becoming distant, it is you becoming aligned. Your standards are changing because your understanding is changing. You are no longer operating from the same level of awareness, and so your tolerance for certain things naturally decreases. This is a sign of growth, a sign that you are no longer willing to settle for what does not match who you are becoming. And while this may create a sense of distance between you and certain people or situations, it also creates space for what is truly aligned to enter your life. You are not losing connection, you are refining it. You are not becoming isolated, you are becoming intentional.
And that distinction is important. As all of these internal changes come together, a new version of you begins to emerge. A version that is calmer, clearer, stronger, more grounded. A version that does not react impulsively but responds with awareness. A version that does not seek constant validation but carries a quiet confidence. This is the result of everything you have been through, everything you have processed, everything you have overcome. And while the external world may still be catching up, the internal shift is already complete. That is why you feel different, because you are different. And as you continue forward, you will begin to see how this internal transformation influences everything around you. Your decisions will become more aligned. Your relationships will become more intentional. Your opportunities will become more fitting. Everything begins to reflect the change that has already taken place within you. So do not question these feelings.
Do not try to return to who you were before just because it feels familiar. Accept the shift. Trust it. Allow yourself to fully step into this new state of being. Because this is not something temporary. This is the foundation for what comes next. And as you stand in this moment, remember this clearly. When the pressure increased, you did not break. When the challenges intensified, you did not collapse. You remained. You endured. You grew. And now, you are standing in the result of that resilience, ready for what is about to unfold. There comes a point in your journey where the change is no longer just emotional or mental. It becomes structural, foundational, undeniable, and that is where you are now. You have been upgraded. Not in a way that needs external validation, not in a way that depends on titles or recognition, but in a way that shifts your capacity, your awareness, and your ability to carry what is next. You are operating from a new level, a new spiritual clearance that allows you to access spaces, responsibilities, and opportunities that were previously unavailable to you. This is not about becoming someone completely different. It is about becoming fully aligned with who you were always meant to be. And with that alignment comes access. Access to bigger rooms, greater influence, deeper connections, and more significant assignments. But understand this clearly. Access without capacity leads to collapse. That is why this upgrade did not happen overnight. It was built through everything you experienced, everything you endured, everything you learned in the seasons that came before this one. Now, you are able to handle what once would have overwhelmed you. Bigger rooms are no longer intimidating in the way they once were. There was a time when the idea of stepping into environments filled with higher expectations, stronger personalities, or greater levels of influence would have made you question yourself. You might have felt out of place, unsure, or pressured to prove something. But now, that internal pressure has been replaced with quiet confidence. You no longer feel the need to shrink or overcompensate. You understand your value without needing constant confirmation. You carry yourself with a sense of presence that is grounded, not forced. This is what happens when your internal development catches up with your external opportunity. You are no longer trying to fit into rooms. You are entering spaces that align with who you have become. And because of that, you can move within them with clarity, with intention, and with stability. You also now have the capacity to handle greater blessings. This is important because blessings are not just about receiving. They are about sustaining. In the past, certain opportunities or advantages might have felt exciting at first, but would have created pressure over time. You might have struggled to maintain them, to manage them, to balance them with everything else in your life. That is because your foundation was still being built. But now, that foundation is stronger. You have developed the discipline, the awareness, the emotional stability required to hold what you receive without losing control. You understand that growth requires responsibility, that expansion requires structure, that increase requires management. And because you understand that, you are able to receive without becoming overwhelmed. You are able to grow without losing alignment. You are able to handle more without it handling you. This is the difference between temporary success and sustainable progress. You are no longer in a position where you would be crushed by the weight of what you asked for. You are in a position where you can carry it, manage it, and allow it to grow. Along with greater blessings comes heavier responsibility, and this is where your upgrade becomes even more evident. Responsibility is not always visible from the outside, but it is deeply felt by the person carrying it. It requires decision-making, consistency, accountability, and the ability to remain steady under pressure. In the past, certain responsibilities might have felt overwhelming, not because you lacked ability, but because you had not yet developed the structure to support them. But now, that structure exists within you. You have learned how to prioritize, how to manage your energy, how to remain focused even when distractions appear. You have developed a level of discipline that allows you to handle what is required without becoming scattered or exhausted. This does not mean everything will be easy, but it means you are now equipped to handle what is difficult without losing balance. That is what this upgrade has given you, the ability to carry more without breaking. And when you reflect on who you were before, the difference becomes clear. The past version of you had potential, but not yet the stability. The past version of you had vision, but not yet the clarity. The past version of you had desire, but not yet the discipline required to sustain it. If you had stepped into this level at that time, it might have felt exciting for a moment, but it would not have lasted. The pressure would have exposed the gaps. The responsibility would have revealed the areas that were not yet developed, and eventually, things would have either collapsed or forced you back into a position of rebuilding. That is why the process mattered. That is why the time you spent developing was necessary. Because now, you are not stepping into this as someone unprepared. You are stepping into it as someone who has been shaped, refined, and strengthened in ways that allow you to remain. This is not about proving anything to anyone. It is about recognizing what has already been established within you. You have been upgraded, and with that upgrade comes a new level of expectation, not from others, but from yourself. You will notice that you naturally hold yourself to a higher standard. You think more intentionally. You act more deliberately. You are more aware of your choices and their impact. This is not pressure. It is alignment. It is the result of your internal growth reflecting in your external behavior. And as you continue to move forward, this alignment will guide you. It will help you navigate opportunities, make decisions, and maintain balance as things expand. There is also a level of humility that comes with this upgrade, because you understand what it took to get here. You know the process was not easy. You know the growth required effort, patience, and resilience. And that awareness keeps you grounded. It allows you to carry what you have without becoming disconnected from the journey that shaped you. It reminds you that this is not the end. It is the continuation of something that is still unfolding. So as you stand in this moment, recognize what has changed. You are not the same person you were before. You are not operating at the same level. You have been upgraded in ways that may not yet be fully visible, but are already fully real. And as the external world begins to reflect this internal shift, you will see how everything begins to align with who you have become. Bigger rooms will open, and you will walk into them with confidence. Greater blessings will arrive, and you will sustain them with stability. Heavier responsibilities will come, and you will carry them with strength. Because now, you can. Now that everything has shifted, now that your status has changed and your capacity has been upgraded, there is something required of you in this moment. Something that will determine whether you fully step into what has been prepared or unintentionally delay it again. This is where awareness becomes action. Because transformation is not complete until it is expressed through how you think, how you speak, and how you carry yourself. You cannot move into a new season while holding on to an old mindset. You cannot step into readiness while continuing to operate as if you are still waiting. So the first thing you must do now is stop thinking like someone who is waiting. Waiting is a mindset rooted in uncertainty, in hesitation, in the belief that something is still out of reach. It creates patterns of doubt, overthinking, and passivity. It keeps you in a position where you are always anticipating, but never fully stepping in. But that mindset no longer aligns with where you are. You are not waiting anymore. You have already been prepared. You have already been authorized. So your thinking must reflect that shift. Instead of asking, when will it happen? You begin to think, how do I move with what has already been released? Instead of focusing on what is missing, you begin to recognize what is present. Instead of doubting your readiness, you begin to trust the process that has already shaped you. This is not about forcing positive thoughts. It is about aligning your perspective with reality. Because the reality is, you are ready. And when your thinking aligns with that truth, your decisions begin to reflect it. The next step is to stop speaking like someone who lacks. Words are not just expressions, they are agreements. They reinforce what you believe, and they influence how you move. When you speak from a place of lack, you create resistance. You reinforce limitation. You keep yourself connected to a version of reality that no longer represents where you are. Phrases rooted in doubt, fear, or insufficiency may have once felt natural, but they no longer serve you. This does not mean you ignore challenges or pretend everything is perfect. It means you choose language that aligns with growth, with readiness, with possibility. You begin to speak as someone who understands that what is needed is either already within you or already on its way to you. You replace hesitation with clarity. You replace doubt with intention. You replace limitation with expansion. Because when your words shift, your focus shifts. And when your focus shifts, your actions follow. This leads to the next level of alignment, beginning to declare with authority. There is a difference between hoping something will happen and declaring that you are stepping into it. Hope waits for confirmation. Authority moves with certainty. And this is the posture you are now called to adopt. Not arrogance, not force, but quiet confidence rooted in understanding. You declare not because you are trying to convince yourself, but because you recognize what has already been established. You begin to affirm your position, your readiness, your direction. You speak from a place of alignment, not desperation. And this declaration activates something within you. It strengthens your focus. It clarifies your path. It reinforces your identity. Because every time you speak in alignment with who you have become, you deepen that identity within yourself.
This is the power of words combined with agreement. When your thoughts, your words, and your actions align, movement becomes natural. There is no internal conflict, no hesitation pulling you in different directions. Everything within you is moving toward the same outcome, and that alignment accelerates progress.
It allows you to recognize opportunities more clearly, to make decisions more confidently, to move forward without constantly second-guessing yourself. But this requires consistency. It requires awareness of how you think, how you speak, and how you respond in everyday moments. Because alignment is not built in one decision. It is built in repeated choices that reinforce the same direction. As you begin to live from this place, your identity posture shifts completely. You move from waiting to expectation, and this is one of the most important transitions you will experience. Waiting is passive. It is uncertain. It is reactive. It looks outward for signs and often feels dependent on external confirmation. But expectation is different. Expectation is active. It is grounded. It is confident. It moves with the understanding that what is coming is already aligned. It does not rush, but it does not hesitate either. It prepares, it positions, it responds. When you operate from expectation, you begin to carry yourself differently. Your energy changes. Your presence changes. You are not searching, you are recognizing. You are not chasing, you are aligning. And this shift is noticeable, not just to you, but to everything around you. Opportunities respond differently. People respond differently. Situations begin to reflect the clarity and confidence you carry. This is not coincidence. It is alignment in action. But there is also a level of discipline required to maintain this posture, because there will be moments where old thoughts try to return, where doubt attempts to re-enter, where situations may not immediately reflect the shift you feel internally. And in those moments, you must remain anchored in what you know to be true. You must continue to think, speak, and act in alignment with readiness, even when the external has not fully caught up yet. This is what solidifies the transition. This is what ensures that you do not slip back into old patterns. You stay consistent. You stay aware. You stay aligned. And as you do, you will begin to see the evidence of this shift more clearly. Doors will open in ways that confirm your readiness. Opportunities will appear that match your capacity. Connections will form that support your direction. And each of these moments will reinforce what you have already declared internally. You will begin to see that this is not something you are trying to create. It is something you are stepping into. And the more you align with it, the more naturally it unfolds. So what you must do now is simple but powerful. Stop thinking like you are waiting. Stop speaking like you lack. Start declaring with authority. Align your thoughts, your words, and your actions with the reality that you are ready. And as you do, you will fully step into the season that is already begun. Your season has shifted, and what once felt like waiting was never punishment. It was positioning you with precision for this exact moment. Everything has aligned at the right time, not early, not late, but exactly when you became ready to sustain it. You felt the change within before anything appeared around you, because internal confirmation always comes before external manifestation. So release the doubt. Release the old questions. You are not late. You are on schedule. Stay close to God. Stay grounded in what has been built within you, because this transformation is no longer beginning. It is unfolding. And as you continue forward, your next season will not need explanation. It will reveal everything.